Bonjour, Véro, sitting on the top of la Butte de Montmartre. Monday morning, it's 11 a.m. and as it tends to be in the mornings, it's pretty quiet. Of course, right now it's even more quiet. And I thought I would take you on a little stroll around the neighborhood. I have been walking around looking for traces of the great guy I introduced you to, well, to some of you at least, during the latest apéro with Véro, illustrator, artist, and philanthropist, and all-around great guy, Francisque Poulbeau, who lived in this neighborhood all of his life. I am standing right here above la Rue des Saules, and if you follow it all the way down, on the right-hand side, you would see that beautiful vineyard, the lot that Poulbeau actually helped save in the 1930s. And down below, the Lapin Agile, the famous cabaret, where I had a most excellent New Year's Eve celebration in December. Don't know if you read about it on the French Girl in Seattle blog, but if not, I will share it in the comments of this video. And this is usually packed with tourists. Maybe not at 11 in the morning, but throughout the day and certainly on the weekends. French tourists, foreign tourists. Here is a restaurant that everybody knows, La Bonne Franquette. It's a great French expression. Manger à la bonne franquette means to eat without manners, to have a casual meal. Unfortunately, we still have cars going around. Some people just can't walk. And if you step to the left a little bit, I think we should be able to get a peekaboo view of the Sacré-Cœur, the Basilica, in the background. You see it? Rue Saint-Rustique. Le Consulat is another iconic restaurant in Montmartre. And I'm going to walk towards a street I've been meaning to go back to without getting run over, without spraining an ankle on the famous Montmartre cobblestones. I am now on Rue Norvin, headed towards that square where all the painters hang out, la Place du Tertre. But my destination is la Rue Poulbeau, the street that was eventually dedicated to a great man. It took a while, and the help of all of his friends in the association he helped create, the Republic of Montmartre. And if you look at this restaurant, it is called Poulbeau, and I like the illustrations. Here is a Petit Poulbeau, one of the Montmartre children, the poor children that Poulbeau helped throughout his life by depicting their lives and their living conditions mostly. And they were eventually named after him, Les Petits Poulbeaux. Here is a reference to the clinic that he helped found in 1923 at 42 Rue Le Pic. It was right behind the restaurant that recently closed down. You see the children? And here is Monsieur Poulbeau, Francisque Poulbeau, who died in 1946. Now, when he walked around Montmartre for all of his life, he lived in different locations, and when he walked around the neighborhood, he was constantly followed by children. They knew him, they called him Monsieur Poulbeau, Monsieur Poulbeau, and when he sat down at a café terrace around Montmartre, he usually would pick one or two kids and would get them some lemonade, and they would sit next to him, and the other children would look on very envious because they hadn't been chosen. And in the several homes that he owned or lived in on La Butte, the hill, he eventually, he had the things set up for the children. So the children, especially when it was cold, were invited to come in, and he would serve them a goûter, little snacks, afternoon snacks. He also, in one of his houses, had something set up so the kids could exercise. You know, those little, I don't know what you call those little loops where kids can exercise, and he had those set up for the children. Look how quiet this is. It's 11 a.m. on a Monday, not a tourist or a local in sight. In fact, I have passed several sisters from the Sacré-Cœur, but I want to check out La Place du Tertre, where the painters usually are. I don't suspect they are there now. There's no foot traffic. It wouldn't be very interesting for them. Still a few cars, and we have here one boulangerie open, and it refers to Les Moulins, the windmills of Montmartre that used to be all over the hill, or at least in the neighborhood. Oh, and looky here, we have Starbucks in Montmartre. It looks very closed. And a child named Nora is about to get in big trouble. Here is La Place du Tertre. And I bet you haven't seen it that empty in a really, really long time. During the day, you would have, typically you would have painters here, peddling to tourists, some good, some not so good. And at night, the restaurants just sprawl out and the terraces just sprawl out and take over. And the painters are none too happy about that. Another iconic place, Au Cadet de Gascogne, and of course La Mère Catherine. All of these restaurants are currently closed since most will not be able to reopen until mid-June at least. The smart ones have switched to takeout, those who were able to make it work, so they can at least get some business. And now we're walking towards Le Sacré-Cœur. Do you know how hard it is and keep a phone stable on the Montmartre cobblestones? Well, I am telling you, it is pretty challenging. Here we go. You see the bell tower on the left, the square one, and then this, it has the largest bell in France, and the basilica right next to it, and the beautiful church in the foreground. I wonder if I should go left or right to show you some pretty views. Here's another sister walking around with a friend of hers, or maybe a relative. I've seen them a couple times already. They're walking around. I think I'll go right. I know the views will be nicer down there. How peaceful is this? This building is actually part of the water reservoir in Montmartre. The police are driving by. The statue of the poor Chevalier de la Barre, who met a terrible fate a long, long time ago when he didn't show proper respect to the powers that be at the time. You see the top of the Sacré-Cœur, the basilica, behind the reservoir? Here we go. I cannot believe how empty this is. I don't suspect pickpockets are working either. and around the corner, the Basilica appears, the Sacré-Cœur, the Holy Heart. It has a very interesting story, just like the whole neighborhood of Montmartre, really. And what a treat as it pops up in the corner. With the Arc de Triomphe, it's one of the few buildings in Paris the city of Paris doesn't actually have to keep clean, because the stone it's made of that comes from the Paris area, outside the Paris area, very special quarries there, is actually self-cleaning in contact with water, with rain and air. But if you walk around, you could see that the back of the basilica is much dirtier, and that tells you it doesn't get exposed to rain quite as much. Right outside are the statues of Saint Louis, King Saint Louis, the only French king who became a saint, and Joan of Arc. And I give you Paris, mes amis. Let's walk a little bit to that section. I hope she's not taking a picture of these ugly love locks. Ugh. Yes, she is. Okay, go around it. Not going to give them any more publicity than they're already getting. Nice view. I was here in December when I treated myself to that special New Year's Eve celebration, and I visited the crypt, which is amazing. Very interesting place, and they had an exhibit going on there. I'll try and go back when it reopens. So it's a little bit misty. It's a little bit misty. You have a few more people here than in the streets. Everybody came here to enjoy the view. Yeah, you don't see masks on a lot of people, but you see them in the metro because they are mandatory there. And people are pretty good about social distancing. Here is Paris. You spot the Tour Montparnasse, the big eyesore on the left bank, and a few other monuments, I'm sure, but it's a little bit misty today. I see Saint-Sulpice on the left over there, and that's what we hear. Yeah, I like that, the sounds of laughter. Some trash too, probably a celebration last night or yesterday. It was Sunday and it was beautiful. You see that glass canopy there is the way to go back up and down the hill a little bit more easily with the funicular. This is a very Parisian view with the rooftops, the zinc rooftops that Paris is famous for. Another little peek. In the back of the church right next to it. The former abbey was based here, right where that church is still standing. It was massive. Sections of it were down the hill by the Place des Abbesses. It's all gone now, that's all that's left. That little church. All right. Trying not to shake so much. Hey, you know my videos are artisanal, huh? I hadn't planned to do this. Last minute decision. This is what you get. Hope you're enjoying the walk. This is cool. You have the Paris crest right here. or the coat of armor or crest, I forgot what it's called in English. You see it? And it says fluctuat mergitur, tossed by the waves but doesn't sink. You see it all over official buildings in Paris. It dates back to the merchants in the 14th century who ran and ruled Paris, really. Through the Seine, the water, that's where the power was. Everybody who brought business to Paris was taxed there. A lot of Paris wealth came from the river. Now, remember what I was telling you about the stone that's self-cleaning? Look at this side. You can totally tell the rain doesn't hit it as much. See how dirty it is? We have a couple of really cool gargoyles up here. I like this side, it's so quiet. Look at that. Rain spouts with some flair. Thank goodness it's not raining. We've had the most beautiful spring, and a lot of it we've spent indoors, but at least we could go out every day for up to an hour. And now that we don't have to limit ourselves, it's nice to go out as safely as possible, of course. And as you can see, we're not taking that many chances because there aren't that many people around. And in the metro, we have to wear face masks and respect social distancing. You know what? Oh, here's the sister again. This is the Rue du Chevalier de la Barre. It's named after that poor, unfortunate chevalier who was tortured a long time ago. I mentioned him earlier in that little park. So I am going to walk you down to the Clos Montmartre, since this walk was inspired by Francisque Poulbeau, and he's the one who helped save that lot, that piece of land where eventually the vineyard was planted. I think it's nice to finish there maybe. So we will go down La Rue des Saules. Usually the street is packed with little shops, touristy shops, and on Sundays it's like back to back. Everybody may want to come back to this shop or little takeout place. I crave coffee, but I can't find a coffee place open. This place, which is now a gallery, Galerie Roussard, was a long time ago a popular cabaret in Montmartre. It belonged to a lady named Patachou. And La Rue des Saules is not quite there. I'll need to keep walking, but I'll go this way. Yeah, Patachou was very popular, and she had this cabaret here where many, many famous artists performed at a certain point in time. La Rue des Saules will be to the left. I'm going to go through this one first. Look at the water reservoir. Eep. The sky is beautiful. Yeah, there's a sign that tells you the vineyard is to the left. Good. This street, La Rue du Mont-Cenis, is part of the Saint-Denis, Saint-Denis legend in Paris. That saint who got beheaded, carried his own head, eventually fell down in a place called Saint-Denis, where there's a cathedral today. I'm sure you've heard the story before, so I won't tell it again. But I like the view from up here, and in fact you do see Saint-Denis and the big Stade de France, that giant stadium in the distance. And this is very much Montmartre, all the stairs. You see the stadium over there? The Stade de France. The French soccer team has played many games there. All right. And we continue down Rue Cortot. Ah, Monsieur le facteur, ou Madame la factrice, the mailman, is here making a delivery. And since nobody's around, he just left his bag outside. Let's go down Rue Cortot. In fact, there is another Poulbeau reference here. So perfect. Sometimes the unplanned walks work out really, really great. How about I get on the sidewalk so the pavement is a little bit more even. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I think we should go faster down, don't you? This guy is speeding down. So on the right here, the sign that you see with the pretty light is the famous Musée de Montmartre, one of my favorite smaller museums in Montmartre. And if you come here by yourself or with a tour guide, you will hear all the stories of the famous artists who lived here or painted here. Suzanne Valadon, Maurice Dutrideau, Renoir. But few people realize that Poulbeau actually lived here. And they will tell you his story in there. There is his statue, there's a bust dedicated to him in there in the beautiful garden. And you can see in the back there's a great little house with the history of Montmartre. And they tell you the story of... Oh yeah, he's listed, good. He's actually listed on all the artists who lived here. I see Francisque Poulbeau, perfect. I would have been upset if he hadn't been listed there. Okay, keep going. Now I went to his last home that he owned down the hill a little bit, and took pictures of it this morning because it has some of his illustrations on the facade. It was a beautiful hotel particulier or private home that he had built, of course, when he was successful and he had more money, but he would still welcome the children there. And this is the home where he died in 1946, right after World War II. The Germans, as I explained to you in Apéro with Véro number 8, the replay is on YouTube on the French Girl in Seattle / Friends with Véro channel. The Germans during World War II remembered that Poulbeau was very patriotic and had painted very patriotic illustrations and messages during World War I against the Germans. So they didn't let him leave his house, which is very sad. He was in a wheelchair by then and he died right after the war in 1946. He was barely 67 years old. Here is La Maison Rose. You may have seen it in person, I hope, and if not, in paintings. Many artists have represented it. Maurice Dutrideau was one of them. And now we have reached La Rue des Saules, and this is where we will wrap up our little walk. Woo! Cobblestones. Hold phone with 2 hands, Véro. I do love seeing La Vigne Vierge, this plant that creeps along the facades and turns red in the fall. We call it Vigne Vierge, like virgin vine. I think it's called Virginia creeper in the United States, but I'm not sure. I love it. I'm sure it causes much damage to the walls, though. I recently went to a party that was held in a great apartment right there on the left at the street corner. It was rented by an expat, and a friend of mine took me there. It was lovely. I could not believe my luck. Here is, maybe I should go across the street to show you better. Here is Le Clos Montmartre. La Vigne du Clos Montmartre, inaugurated in 1933, but really they harvested it for the first time in 1934. And every year the famous Fête des Vendanges, the harvest festival, starts here, and the association that Francis Poulbeau and his artist friends created a long time ago in the 1920s will inaugurate the ceremony, and it's a big party. I was here last year. It was really fun. I believe like 500,000 people come here. Non, monsieur, je fais une vidéo. Vous êtes sur la vidéo. Dites bonjour au chauffeur de taxi. Bonjour, bonjour. Bonjour. Comment vous appelez-vous, monsieur?
Je m'appelle Marc.
Marc, enchanté.
On a la chance d'avoir un ciel bleu et pas d'avoir trop de pollution.
Yes, we are lucky. The sun is beautiful and there is no pollution. Je vous souhaite une bonne journée. Au revoir, Marc. Véronique. Véro. À bientôt, Marc. This is probably the friendliest cab driver in Paris. I've already met him and he tried to give me a ride earlier and I told him I'd prefer walking. Bonjour, monsieur. Il n'y a que vous qui travaillez aujourd'hui. Hard at work. Weeding, probably. Yeah, we have friendly cab drivers here. We do. He's probably a little bored because there aren't that many people around. So I was telling you the story of the vineyard, and the house you see in the back here is the Musée de Montmartre, that little house we just walked past, where Poulbeau and other artists worked and painted. Hein? Je sais. Je leur explique. Alors, then, I think the cab driver wants to tag along on my walk. He just parked and he walked up to me. I told him I was filming something. Though, I mean, I suppose he could guide us around if he knows the area pretty well. So here we go. This is the last thing I wanted to show you here and I'll wrap up. It's called Au Lapin Agile, the agile rabbit. But really it's a play on the word because the original owner was Gilles, Monsieur Gilles. I was surprised to have a wonderful evening here for New Year's Eve in December. I've mentioned it before. I couldn't believe how fun it was, how authentic it still is. People singing together at large communal tables, drinking cheap wine, and the local aperitif, cerise, made with cherry, very sweet. And I had the best time. It was just an incredible evening. People were super friendly there, so I highly encourage you to do it if you can. I don't really want to shoot into the sun. I did not miss the sound of cars during the confinement, I am telling you this. So here we are, standing in the heart of everything Montmartre, in front of Le Clos Montmartre, on la rue des Saules, at the Lapin Agile. I hope you've enjoyed our little walk. It's been going on for almost 30 minutes and I'll be sharing it soon. Thank you for following Véro. And as always, you can look me up on FrenchGirlInSeattle.com. That's where my blog is. Or you can join me every day on Facebook and Instagram at Friends with Véro. And on Saturdays, come and join me definitely for Apéro with Véro, where we'll take a look at France and Paris through the eyes of a native, with many discoveries await, just like Francis Poulbeau. See you soon. Au revoir. À bientôt.